Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this one, I am going to show you guys a brand new way that I discovered how to play the fried liver. You guys know the opening, I'm sure, but I've got a new way to play it, which I've been getting a lot of wins with, and I think you guys can too. I'm going to show you exactly how to do so. Alright guys, so it starts the exact same way that the fried liver attack starts, and if you don't know what that is, I'll show you right now. Against knight f6, knight g5 is the fried liver. The knight and bishop both attack the f7 pawn. What I've got in store for you is basically the exact same idea, but we're going to delay it one more move. So we're going to play queen e2. This is the basis of our entire idea, and this is what, in my opinion, gives the fried liver a new lease on life. So queen e2 defends our pawn that was just attacked, and the best move in this position, and obviously the most common, is bishop c5. Black develops the bishop before pushing the d-pawn, which is just good development habits, honestly, but it walks right into exactly what we want to have happen. Now we play knight g5. And this is why I say it's the fried liver, but we've just revamped it a little bit. And we've delayed knight g5 a move, but we're going to do it now and attack this pawn. Black is not normally scared of knight g5 in this case because they can castle. Castle is the most common move played in this position. It's played over 90% of the time. And to be honest, it's the move that I would play in this position. There are two pieces attacking f7. In the normal fried liver, the bishop isn't developed yet, so we don't have the option to castle. In this case, castling is honestly a no-brainer. But after black castles, we've kind of fallen into our exact trap. This is why we play the opening, and this is a trap that you will catch your opponents in all the time. You just play knight takes f7, you're hitting the queen. I mean, at this point, they probably think that you've blundered or that you don't know the value of the pieces because 2 pieces for a rook is not a good trade. But we'll follow up with queen c4, delivering a check and forking that bishop on c5. And this was the entire idea behind queen e2. This is why we did it before. And after black plays d5, or they could move their king as well, d5 is a little more aggressive. We'll just take this free piece. And the best that black can do here is maybe take a pawn from us and, make another threat against our pawn. But once we play knight a3, we've guarded the only problem in the position, our c2 pawn. We've collected some free material. We are up the exchange, if you count up the pieces here, right? 3 minor pieces for black, but we have 2 minor pieces and this extra rook in the corner. So we're just going to play moves like d3 here, castle. We can kick these knights out of the center, and maybe even d3 and queen g5, because we'd love to trade queens if we can. So this is just the basic idea. This is why we play this queen e2 move. And honestly, everyone is going to fall into this, because knight g5, castles, like I said, that's the move I would play. Looks like a great move. If they don't play castles, though, they're going to play d5, right? d5 is the natural way that when people deal with the fried liver, bishop and knight attacking this pawn, they always go d5. This is what people are taught. So they might do it in this variation as well. You're going to definitely take this pawn. Now, if knight takes d5, we get to follow up the exact same way that we always would in the main fried liver opening. Knight captures f7, a great sacrifice. Forking, I mean, black's got no option. They have to take it back. We play queen f3 check, forking the king and the knight can't come back to block because it's pinned as well. So at this point, if the black king moves away, we're just going to win our piece back, and we've already won a pawn on f7, so we're just much better. The only attempt for black would be to try to defend the knight in the center, but this is honestly kind of a suicide mission. We're going to attack this knight. The only move black has is to bring the knight back to defend. And after we bring the knight into the center of the board, we've got knight g5 as a threat. The f7 square is loose. We're still threatening the d5 knight. We're also hitting the bishop after knight e4. There's just so much that black cannot deal with here. And plus, who the heck signs up to have their king on e6 on, what is this, move 10? So absolutely not worth it. So that's d5, and we want to take it. And notice how this is a little bit different from the normal fried liver. Like, if we take knight a5, that's how we would actually respond in the regular fried liver. But now, with our queen on e2, the e5 pawn is hanging with check, so it's not that easy to do. Knight a5, okay, not the best move. Knight d4 is a little bit more aggressive, and your opponents can hit you with knight d4 in the center. Now that they've dealt with this f7 pawn, they say, okay, knight d4, let me attack the queen. Well, we're going to respond the way that you might expect. Queen takes e5. We take one center pawn, we take another one. And if you look with the computer, this is probably a line that's, going to be quite tricky for white to handle, but I have no problems with this position. Black has to play the incredibly weird king f8. So we're losing one center pawn, another center pawn, losing our castling privileges. I mean, this just looks crazy already. So what I think we should do, castle. Immediately castle and give up this c2 pawn. It looks insane, but we're going to give it up. And now we're going to play queen back to c3. Queen c3 hits the knight, and this might sound ridiculous, but we're going to force them to take our rook. Yes, I know, they want to take it anyway. But our follow-up is we gain a lot of tempi, and we take advantage of black's king. Pawn to b4, that knight is a goner. It's going to be lost. Bishop back to d6 and bishop b2. Don't rush to take the knight. We can take back with the bishop, and this is kind of a position you could expect to have if your opponent plays this, d5, knight d4 variation, and king f8. All pretty weird moves to play. If they do, though, and they get to this position, yeah, the engine thinks that black is a little bit better. I'm not going to lie. But I think white has a lot of potential here. First of all, if your knight gets attacked, or if you need to move in general, knight e4 can always be played. Black's knight can't move because of the pressure on g7. This knight is dead. I mean, we're going to take that knight whenever we have time. We can play rook to e1, knight a3, knight b5 is another maneuver. And there's just lots of diagonals and open lines. Meanwhile, this king has a really hard time getting developed. And honestly, it's a pretty tough position for black to play. So I think this is a very good compensation. Plus, your opponent is going to have to make some really weird moves just to get here. And as I said, let's not forget, after the move knight g5, castling is played almost all the time here. So that is the most common move, and it's the move that falls right into knight takes f7, which is, I guess, the main trick in this opening. So I also decided to visit Opening Tree and show you guys what I thought was pretty cool here. The move that we're using in this position is queen e2. This is a transposition. If they start with the bishop, then queen e2 is not even a move suggested here. Also, knight f6, queen e2, a very rare move as well. Not even the top 5. So I think this queen e2 move will catch a lot of people off guard, and whether they start with the bishop or the knight, those two moves will probably get played one after the other. And after knight to g5, castling is the top move. 3,000 times it's been played compared to d5 300 times. Like, it's just the move that you're going to see over and over again. And knight takes f7 will continue to work, and you can see the win rate with knight takes f7 is 66%, so pretty convincing. All right, guys, you know that if I'm going to tell you about this new opening, of course I had to try it myself. So I did. I jumped in the chess.com pool, and I got a 2550. I don't actually play e4 too often myself, so I was hoping that I would get an e5 from my opponent, and I did. e4, e5. Knight f3, and the nice part about this game was that we went right into it. Knight f6, queen e2, and at this point, I was kind of like praying that we would see bishop c5, but to be honest, bishop c5 is the top move in this position, so people are going to do it all the time. And he walked right into it. Bishop c5, knight g5 is what I played. And castles. I mean, this is a 25-50 that I just got in the 3-minute pool. And he castled right into knight f7. And lo and behold, just rook takes f7, takes, queen c4. And I got the exact tactic that I think I based this entire idea of queen e2 around. So this was pretty cool that I jumped into like the first game and immediately I was feeling like the game was just going to be over here, but my opponent put up a really good fight. After I took the bishop, knight takes e4, queen e3. This is the only safe square that you can really use without wasting more and more time. It also stops queen g5, which is kind of nice. Knight d4. My opponent made a huge threat here that I had to deal with, and this is a position that I even mentioned to you guys when we were going over the opening. Now, I reached this position in, I mean, just about 20 seconds. We're on move 11 here. My opponent's already down a minute on the clock. That's a third of their time in a blitz game. So not only are they down material, king can't castle, but they're down time as well. Like, there's just so many benefits to this, just being booked up, being prepared, and yeah, I was able to just get an easy advantage right out of the opening. So my opponent plays queen f6, and the game continued. It was, you know, it's a blitz game, so I was not without my own mistakes here, but d3, this is definitely the way that you want to continue. Knight back to d6, and here I think, honestly, in retrospect, I should have just tried to trade the queens because, hey, when you're up material, that's always a fantastic idea. Queen g5. I decided to go for f4 because I wanted to castle and open up the f-file. So I thought this was a really brilliant, smart idea. And my opponent played e4, and I was like, like I wasn't that happy anymore. Knight f5 is a threat. I can't really take without bringing the knight back in. So I didn't really love this, but the game continued. He's just developing, so am I. Decided to defend this pawn so I could move my bishop, trying to stop e3. So in the end, my f4 move didn't really pay off, and I had to struggle for a while here to try to reclaim my advantage again. And in the flurry, I ended up dropping my bishop. We play a time scramble here. We're both down to 30 seconds, and in the ensuing nonsense, my opponent blunders a piece, cementing this win with this opening. I had to get a win with it. The fact that I got it in the pool was, I thought, pretty lucky that we were able to get it right away, and we were able to get this pretty nice checkmate position at the end where rook h6 will be mate, knight f6 will also be a mate. So this was a pretty nice finish, but I thought we just got off to a flying start, time advantage, easy, honestly, really easy opening for me, up material. But I would say most importantly, you know, once I realized afterwards, looking at the game, that maybe f4 wasn't the right idea, queen g5, just trading the queens. So even going over the game now, I thought was really helpful. Yeah, just queen g5. I don't know what black's supposed to do after queen g5. No queens on the board, should be really easy, but this is just an example how easy it is. I jumped into one game and crushed a 25-50, so I think you guys can have the same success if you try it in your games. Good luck!